Hi, Al. How you doing?
I got a full day of work ahead of me, so I'm going to enjoy this hour, and then I'll be off to work. So it's an international break, so I don't really enjoy these international breaks these days. Maybe as a sign of being spoiled. So in the old days, I loved watching international games, but to be honest, I can't wait for it to be over so we can get back to the domestic stuff.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, mate. I didn't see the England game yesterday. I listened to it on the radio, so I was coming back from a Subbuteo tournament in Cambridge.
Yeah.
Listened to it on the radio. It sounded pretty dire. Andorra. I could just see the headline being written: England struggled to open Andorra's box.
All right. Yeah. So you've always been good with those little one-liners. Yeah, I didn't even watch it, to be honest. Actually, I worked with a Polish guy, and he was saying, "Well, Wednesday's the big game then." And I was looking at him and, well, what's that? And I didn't even know England are playing Poland on Wednesday in Warsaw. So
yeah.
To be honest, I still enjoy the final tournaments, the World Cup, Euros, but especially with qualification being much easier than it used to be, it renders a lot of those games almost meaningless. Meaningless for the big teams, but those games are important for teams like Andorra, San Marino. So I disagree, with people like Lawrence and who think they should be in some pre-qualification. I completely disagree with that. I think it's great, that Andorra, San Marino can play England. It's like in the FA Cup.
Yeah, I tend to agree, but part of me thinks with international football it's a little bit different from the FA Cup, in as much as, like, for example, Andorra. And you've got to take your hat off to them. They held England to 1-0 at half time.
Yeah.
And I think deep into the second half. But I mean, their whole game was like 9 at the back thing, and what even from that? You can say got to beat what's in front of you and all that stuff. But I'm not sure what Andorra were achieving by playing 9 at the back, trying to hold on for a small score, rather than actually going out and trying to express yourself, all that kind of stuff. But having said that, Andorra, apparently you can fit the entire population of Andorra inside Wembley Stadium, which kind of makes you think, well, I know you don't agree with Lawrence, but part of me thinks he might have a point. With the really smaller nations, if you put all of them, like Andorra, San Marino, Gibraltar, all of the ones that are always going to struggle, no matter how much of a fantasist you are, or a Roy the Rovers type person you want to be, I think it would probably be better having a pre-tournament. But that's just my feeling on it.
Yeah, I disagree with that one, because I think they can make money. They can make money out of it. From that money, they can develop the game in their countries. Also, it builds up interest, so it gives those people in those countries hope as well. You look back.
I think it's one of those. There's always arguments for and against, I guess. I mean, personally, I think it was like 7 or 8 or maybe even 9 of the Andorra team that played all play in the Andorra League. I didn't even know Andorra had a league. Yeah. But I mean, the equivalent of the Andorra League, I think it's the equivalent to, I think it's like the 3rd tier in Spanish football or something. Somebody was saying.
Yeah.
I might be wrong on that, but and again, we talked about this before, that whole entitlement of England, thinking they're entitled to get a 5 or 6 or 7 or an 8 just because Andorra. Throw that into the mix. If Andorra came up against somebody like Germany, it probably would be 8-0, or Spain or Italy, it probably would be 8 or 9-0.
Yeah.
And you have to ask the question. Those players that are playing for Andorra, yeah, it's nice to play against the big stars of the world, but do they want to be going out and getting a whooping 7 or 8 every time? I'm not sure they do, to be fair.
Yeah, but you go back to the 70s. You remember England would play Cyprus, Malta, even Switzerland, and they'd win 4 or 5-0.
Well,
Turkey
8-0.
I would argue, just by playing again, and again, little bit by little bit, they got better. That's what I would argue.
Yeah, like I said, there's arguments for and against. I'm just not convinced that it's. I don't think the balance is that it's good for them. I think it probably would be better. I mean, they could play more matches if they played your Gibraltars, your Maltas, your whatever, your Luxembourgs, your Liechtensteins. Although Luxembourg, to be fair, have got better.
Yeah,
I'd love to see them qualify for a tournament. But I think if they played in a pre-tournament, they would get more matches anyway, and they would better themselves because they think, well, actually, we might beat Luxembourg, we might beat Liechtenstein, whereas they're all at the moment they're constantly going into games thinking, how can we keep the score down? But anyway.
Yeah.
So have to agree to disagree.
All right. Yeah. I'm going to disagree with you on that. So you were off playing Subbuteo at the weekends. So
I was.
So I used to play. As I found out in later years, I was playing it completely wrong. When I was a kid, I had Subbuteo, loved it, but as I said, I realized later on the rules that we'd been applying were completely the wrong rules. So tell me about that. Was it Subbuteo Fest or something? What was the name of it?
Yeah, so Subbuteo Fest, there's a chap called Alan Lee who is basically the driving force behind getting Subbuteo back as a popular thing. I mean, it has remained a popular thing, unknown to me really, because I've been out of the game for 30 odd years. I know, when I had that flat in Barnwood Road, I put the table up in there and we played a few games, didn't we? But I've been out of it competitively for quite some time until just before lockdown. And I've got back into it. I've joined the Solent League. I'm currently the Solent League champion, going into we just started a new season. It's great. I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it. But I'm also selling teams to order, painting teams to order. And that was my first festival, if you like. Yesterday, I was actually selling and playing at the same time, which was good. But I won my group.
So has the lockdown helped revive it, or is that unrelated?
Yeah. No, it's not unrelated. It certainly. I mean, it's been carrying on. So I discovered. And it's extremely, extremely popular in Italy and Belgium, mainly in Italy. The Italians love it. They're really good at it as well. And there's still a huge market for it over there. There's a big market for it here too, still, although Subbuteo itself obviously isn't produced anymore in the same way that it used to be.
Is the company still going? The Subbuteo company?
There's a bit of a long story attached to that. Basically, Waddington's bought it. They then sold it to, I think it was Hasbro. And then Hasbro sold it to some other company. For the life of me, I can't remember the name at the moment, but the company that's got it now, what they've done is they've produced it in a way that has never really appealed to the enthusiast, if you know what I mean. So it is that, I mean, the product is quite poor, really. You've got plastic nets instead of proper nets. Although pitches have improved in recent times, they've not been great. And the figures themselves have been poor, really poor. But I guess these things they always change, and sometimes there are other different types now. There are different types of stuff being produced by different companies. There's a massive market for productions, and the game itself has changed even more now. You've got flat bases. It's very fast. The old days of curling the player and skills and all that kind of stuff has gone now in the modern game. That's what was nice about yesterday's tournament, that it was old school. It was old school Subbuteo, which was nice. Going back to it, because now I play in a league, I play on the fast and with the flat bases and stuff. So, it's great being involved
in those tournaments. So when I remember as a kid, you used to be able to buy just accessories like the throwing guy, the corner kicker. In tournaments, can you use those or not use those? No, you can't.
No, you can't. And that's partly why I got back into it, because when I was playing sort of back in the 80s and I was playing on the circuit, I always wanted a stadium. But because I was playing competitively, a stadium didn't allow for that. You couldn't play properly with the stadium. You couldn't practice. You couldn't do all that kind of stuff. And also, money was limited, and the bits were quite expensive back even then. And I always wanted a stadium, and it was going to be my retirement project. And then when lockdown happened, Sarah, my wife, said to me, "Well, why don't you bring that forward?" So she encouraged me, and I built the stadium in the garage, which then soon transformed into Cheltenham Town's ground. And then I was going to keep it quiet, going to keep it to myself, not tell anyone. And I told a mutual friend of ours, sent him a picture, and he put it on Twitter, and it went nuts. It went absolutely bonkers. So, and then I had people that I used to play against back in the day coming on to me saying, "You must start playing again. You must do this." And I resisted for a while, and then I went to a tournament, funnily enough, at the same place as I was at yesterday, but a year ago. And I did okay, even though I'd been out of the game for a while. I did okay, and then got the bug again, and then I joined league in Southampton, and the rest, as they say, is history.
So I've always wondered about that name, Subbuteo. It sounds Italian, or so. What's the history of that? Did it start?
Well,
did it start in Italy, or where did it start?
No, it started in England, and it derived from a game called New Footy. It was a very similar game to Subbuteo, and a guy saw that there was potential in it. Excuse me. I think the family that had started New Footy didn't have the sort of the marketing nous of the guy that invented Subbuteo, and that guy was called Peter Adolf, and he set up a factory in Tunbridge Wells in Kent. Little factory.
I remember Tunbridge Wells on the boxes. When you buy the big box, it would say Tunbridge Wells.
Yeah, it was in Kent for many years, and then it moved up north. But I think was it Chiddingstone Causeway or something like that. It was at one point as well. And then when Waddingtons took it over, it was up north. But the original factory in Tunbridge Wells, Peter Adolf employed factory workers to paint the players, mainly women housewives that would do a bit of pocket money, bit of work on the side, and they would hand paint the figures for a very, very minimum wage. And the popularity just grew and grew and grew, and he ended up inventing various other sort of byproducts of Subbuteo. Started off obviously with the table soccer.
Yeah.
And it was meant to be an exact replica or as close to associated football. Some people argue that the old game was better because it had more skill involved, but some people say that the modern game is better. It all depends. I personally think it depends on what era you were brought up in, of what era Subbuteo was around at the time, is what is going to be your favourite. I mean, I'm the old classic classic heavyweight player, but I have adapted to the modern game in order to play in the current rules and stuff. But yeah, your original question was, where did the name come from?
Yeah.
He originally wanted to change it from New Footy, obviously, because that wasn't his name, to he wanted to call it The Hobby. But I think there was already a game called The Hobby, so he couldn't get the patent for it. So being a bit of an ornithologist, he chose the Latin name for the hobby, which the bird of prey, the hobby, which was Falco Subbuteo. So
I don't know that bird of prey, the hobby. I never heard of that bird of prey, the hobby.
Yeah, it's a sort of kestrel variety. You'll be straight onto Google after this, won't you? Looking at the hobby, I know you will.
Yeah, later on tonight after work.
Yeah.
So is that bird? Is it on? And is there any logo or what? So what's the Subbuteo logo?
It's basically just a ball with the head of the hobby perched on top of the ball.
Okay.
And that's it. Yeah.
Okay, so while you were playing, so if you guys were playing Subbuteo, so did you take any interest in any of the games that were taking on the real football games that were taking place, or just?
Well, I was trying to. I mean, Saturday obviously kind of passed me by a little bit because of travelling and stuff, and also I'm directing a stage show at the moment, so I had a rehearsal for that in the morning, and then Saturday passed me by. Really, I was travelling down to Cambridge. Sunday, I tried to listen to the England Andorra game on the way back on the radio, but it was fairly boring until I think the 75th minute it picked up a little bit. Obviously, there was Cheltenham game.
Yeah.
Against MK Dons, I believe they were doing well. The referee wasn't great, apparently, by all accounts. Some guy, in fact, said it was the worst referee at Wadden Road he'd ever seen.
Well, I'm sure there are a few.
I'm sure there are a few. Yeah. I can think of a few. I won't mention any names because I don't want a lawsuit. But yeah. But apparently, I think again, classic Cheltenham heading for 3 points, and in the last 10 minutes they let one in.
Yeah, there's been a few of those in the last few weeks.
Yeah. But as far as I'm concerned, if they draw every game, they'll stay up. So.
Yeah. If they're not going to draw every game, but then you've got to think they're going to win the odd game here and there, so they need to reduce the number of defeats.
Yeah,
I think the first few weeks don't look too bad. I think. I mean, they've been in winning positions, so hopefully they can just knuckle down and hang on in some future games. What about Ben Tozer leaving? Ben Tozer left in the end. You didn't think he would, but he did. So is that going to affect the team, or is it not going to affect the team at all?
I don't know. I mean, I expressed my opinion about it on Twitter and got jumped all over by some of the Cheltenham Town faithful. Because they didn't agree with what I said, basically, which was I think there's got to be more going on behind the scenes for somebody to want to go from being in League One to non-league football at Wrexham. And they can say to me all they want, well, you'd do it for an extra $4,000 a week. Well, yeah, maybe I would. I don't know, but it just all seemed a little bit. I don't know. I can't even put my finger on it. I mean, Cheltenham are notoriously not great at business. And some guy, I said that as well on Twitter, and some guy said to me, well, I reckon Mo Isa for nothing and then selling him for $1 million is great business. Well, I don't think it's particularly great business when you've already turned down $3 million from Peterborough United for him.
Yeah.
I don't think that's great. But anyway, I can just some of these guys are like jumping on my throat. I know they've only been following Cheltenham since Cheltenham have been a football league club, and I remember the days when we had some really decent players that they'd let go for literally peanuts and a packet of crisps. You know, you talk about the Brett Angels of this world, right?
Yeah.
You sell Brett Angel for whatever it was, I don't know, 40 grand, was it, or 60 grand? I can't even remember.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot. Wasn't a lot.
And he goes on to be the division's leading scorer in 3 divisions and ends up playing for Everton and Derby and what have you. And I mean, you know, he wasn't the greatest player in the world, but he was certainly better than bloody 40 grand, right?
Yeah.
And the same Grant McCann, right? Grant McCann, international footballer, whilst playing for Cheltenham, sod all money, you know.
Yeah, I think, you know, that's some. Well, I think, you know, I think we got to face the fact that we probably don't pay very, very high wages. So I think you got to accept that. But I agree that we should be more Daniel Levy like in our business dealings. If that had been Daniel Levy, then he would have stayed, or we'd have got more money for him. Yeah.
Well, I know, sort of, you know, back in the day, you know, when we were kicking around the club and I was working in the club shop and all that stuff. I remember if anybody offered any money at all for anyone, they would bite their arm off because they were more worried about losing that money than sticking there, you know, holding out and getting more money, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it just felt to me like the people that were in charge or on the board or whatever just didn't really have a football brain. And I know it's easy for me to sit here in an armchair and say that, but I say a football brain, a football business brain is what I meant to say.
Yeah, I mean, Barry Fry, I remember back in the day, Barry Fry used to, if he'd sell any players, he'd be getting hundreds of thousands for those players, and that was back in the 80s, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, Cheltenham's never been a glamorous club. It's never been a popular club in terms of, you know, whenever we were on sort of like in the FA Cup when we were a non-league club, for example, we would always be the last game shown, and it would be like 3 seconds if we were lucky, you know, that kind of stuff. And I guess it's just that, you know, in terms of attracting big players, that's never going to happen because, like you say, we can't afford to pay their wages. But the reality is, we're a League One club, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And if a League One club, you know, our success in League Two, a lot of it, not everything, because we did score goals other than from the long throw, but we had a captain who was a bit of a talisman, who played every single game last season, didn't start this season, allegedly because he had COVID or tail end of COVID, whatever. I'm not so sure. I think that might be an excuse. I think the writing was probably already on the wall. And all of a sudden, you know, is he out of favour? I mean, from the comments I heard from Duff, I'm not convinced that Duff did everything he could to persuade him to stay. And okay, he might not have been able to say, well, if you stay, we're going to pay you, we're going to match your wages at Wrexham, right? But sometimes there's more to it than money, I think.
Yeah. I think maybe he had his eye on a few loan players, like, was it Kyle Joseph? Has he come from Swansea? So
yeah.
So I think he had his eye on a few loan players, but needed the money from the Tozer sale to get them in.
Exactly right. But again, you know, you talk about loan players. I actually put a comment because somebody said, "Oh yeah, well we'll get the money from Ben Tozer and we'll bring in some new players." I said, "Yeah, we'll bring in loan players," and they were like, "No, we won't." I said, "Yeah, we will. We'll bring in loan players that'll either be with us and gone by January. They'll be gone by January, or you know, they'll be kicking around probably till February and have played half a dozen games."
But I think that's the way that I don't know. Reading between the lines, because I'm not there, but reading between the lines, that seems to me the way Michael Duff has gone. So he seems to play great football in the.
We're not overrun with strikers, right? And then we let George Lloyd go out on loan, and I'm like, okay. And people say, well, yeah, George Lloyd doesn't put the ball in the back of the net. Well, he ain't going to put the ball in the back of the net when he's sat on the bench, is he? To be fair.
Yeah, I mean, talking about letting players go. Yeah, there is a delay. Yeah. Yeah. Also, Jase, maybe your voice is a little bit low. I know we had problems. Just turn your mic up a little.
Sorry,
Can you
mate.
turn your mic up a bit?
I have, yes.
Yeah. Talking about letting players go, one player I want to talk just while we're on the subject was a player I've seen him play in the Championship, and I thought he used to play for Cheltenham, was Marlon Pack. Do you remember, Marlon Pack? So I don't know, did his contract end? I can't remember how he left, but I always thought there he was playing for Cheltenham, and then all of a sudden he's playing for Bristol City and Cardiff, I think. And I think so. What happened with that?
I can't really remember exactly, but I know it was all a bit quick, a bit rushed because he was great. He was great for Cheltenham. Definitely playing probably below his level when he was at Cheltenham. I can't remember which manager we had that sold him. I got a feeling it was.
I think it was Gary Johnson, and sold him. Did he sell him to his son? Did he sell him to his son at Bristol City?
No, I think Cottrell was there when Pack went. I think.
Steve Cottrell. So I can't remember. Steve Cottrell came back. Did he come back?
No, Cottrell was at Bristol City.
Oh, Bristol City, yeah. So he bought him from Cheltenham. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, he's there now, and he's doing the business for Cardiff now. So yeah, and there's been others. There's like that have gone on to be better players elsewhere than what they were for us.
Yeah.
Danny Andrews springs to mind. Good player.
Yeah. Okay.
And even what's his name? Tom Nicol couldn't hit a cow's arse with a banjo when he was at Cheltenham. He's banging them in everywhere else now.
Yeah, it often happens that way. You got to wonder why. Why is that? I'm sure there are a lot of reasons. Maybe it could just be the style of play. Then there could be personal reasons as well. You don't really know.
Oh yeah, I mean Chris Camden springs to mind always in that scenario.
Yeah.
Got goals everywhere he went. Couldn't hit a cow's arse with a banjo for us.
Yeah.
It was the other guy as well. What was his name? There's been loads. I mean, even Andy Gray. Andy Gray couldn't score for us for Toffee, could he? For about 13 matches or something like that.
Yeah, made you wonder if he really wanted to score.
Some of them were sitters, weren't they?
Yeah, I don't remember a lot. Yeah, I got a feeling he missed a few on the line. Did he miss a couple of ones on the line?
He did. I remember him standing on the line and putting one over once.
I remember him scoring a header, though, a classic. Did I see him score a classic diving header in one game?
Header, yeah. I think it was against, I want to say it was against Boston United, actually.
Yeah, I don't remember that well, to be honest. Yeah, I
might be wrong.
So I think there's another.
I do remember him getting up and wiping the mud off his chest, though.
So there's another round of international games. I think England are playing Poland, as I was saying. So, but and then at the weekend we're back. Well, I mean, to be honest, Cheltenham were playing at the weekend. So, I think maybe that's the difference between going the games and watching games on TV or on the internet. So back in the day when I lived in England and be going to games, it wouldn't make a difference if there was an international break because I'd be going to watch Cheltenham anyway. So so I think that's the difference as well, between the armchair fan, which I am these days, to be honest, and the people who really actually go to the games.
Yeah. Well, I've got to say, living in Portsmouth, I'm an armchair fan now because going to Cheltenham for a home game is just like a long trudge halfway up the country.
Yeah.
But obviously, being in League One, and it happened occasionally in League Two as well. But being in League One, when you got a full international bunch of fixtures, you got your Wales playing, and you got your Northern Ireland's playing, Republic of Ireland's playing. You're more likely to be having your games postponed because a lot of those players come from League One and the Championship.
I noticed a lot of those League One games were postponed on Saturday. Yeah, I think even League Two teams have games cancelled. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah. Which, I mean, it's great because it shows that we've gone up a standard, up a level sort of thing.
Yeah, actually, I noticed Arsenal, they signed Tomiyasu. I can't remember his full name, but they signed a Japanese guy in the last week or so. He's from Fukuoka, where I live.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether they get any money from that because he originally played for them, but then he went to Europe. He was playing Bologna. Did he play for Salzburg? I think he went around a few teams. But anyway, he's at Arsenal now, who need a bit of inspiration. So, what are your thoughts on the Premier League and how it started? Is it just as you were, or what are your thoughts?
Well, pretty much. I mean, I think going back to our first sort of show, I tipped for the title, and I think probably getting in Ronaldo. I can't quite get my head around that, to be honest with you. To be fair, I mean, I know he's still a great player, but it's an awful lot of money to be paying somebody of that age, isn't it? Really, I think.
They have got the money. I mean, to be honest, they do have the money.
They have, yeah, they have. But I remember reading that. I think it was the day after it was announced, because there was a lot of talk here. I don't know whether you heard it over there, but there was a lot of talk here that he was going to join City.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, I know. I thought he was there, and then I don't know whether that had always going to be the way, and they were just winding City up, or whether actually just Man United did actually step in at the last moment and stop it happening. I don't know which way it was.
Apparently, I mean, I don't know whether it's true, but apparently he'd always said when he left United that would be where he'd finished his career, right? I don't know whether that's true, or whether it's just one of those, urban myths or whatever. But I know certainly with Cristiano Ronaldo, it has to be his way or no way, I think, personally. And I suppose when you're getting that kind of money, you can command that kind of, circle around you, if you like. But I read the day after he signed that Cavani had said, "There's no way he's having the number 7 shirt," right? And then 3 days later, I read he's got the number 7 shirt, and I'm thinking, yeah, because there's no way they're going to say no to Ronaldo, right? Just no way. But when he plays, who are they not going to play?
Yeah.
Who are they going to leave out?
Yeah. I mean, is he going to demand? Is he going to demand to be a regular starter, or is he going to be content to come on as a super sub?
I can't see that. Can you? I can't see him being content with that.
No.
I also can't see. I can't see him liking being, put on the bench with Marcus Rashford put in ahead of him. I can't see him accepting that, to be honest.
Well, you think of all you think of all the forwards they got. They've got Greenwood, Rashford, Martial, Cavani, Ronaldo. Am I forgetting somebody? There's somebody else. Is there somebody else that I've forgotten?
Lingard.
Oh yeah, he's back there now, isn't he? I mean, so and that then you think who is there at City? Well, City didn't renew Aguero's contract. I always felt, despite all his goals and his legend status, that Guardiola never really fancied him. That was my feeling. I always felt that, and my feeling as well. Even though it looked like he was going to go to City, my feeling is he's not a Guardiola player. So I'm not convinced he was going to go to City. Although I guess if it was going to be on a free, then and for the lower wages than United are paying, then maybe they would have, because they don't have the number of forwards that United do, then maybe they were going to take him just because they don't have a lot of strikers and use him as kind of an emergency. But it seemed a strange one.
I think it's a lot of people, nobody has really said this, but I think it's setting a bit of a dangerous precedent, actually, to be honest, because obviously there was all that talk about that European Super League, and it's almost as though the European Super League is being created within the Premier League. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
If you look at it, yeah.
I don't think it's dead. I don't think that Super League's dead in the water. I think they're going to come back and try it again, and maybe with a different face. But I don't think they're going to drop that idea. Or maybe, like you say, they will try and the plan B. It could be plan B, recreate it within the parameters of what there is at the moment.
Yeah, I'm amazed that they've never had. I don't know, they've had the World Club Championship Cup and all that stuff.
Yeah,
but I'm amazed that they've never tried to bring in like a World League, like you've got with the European Cup is the way it is now, the Champions League, right?
Yeah.
I'm amazed that they've never tried to do that, because if you had the teams like your Barcelonas, your Real Madrids, your Manchester Uniteds, your Manchester Cities, your Liverpools playing teams like River Plate, the Estudiantes, all that lot on a regular basis, the amount of money that would generate would be phenomenal.
Yeah. But I mean, it's all we're already halfway there. But I think that changes the match day experience for what they then call legacy. These legacy fans, basically the match going fans. That just changes everything for the match going fans, because if Liverpool are playing River Plate, but bar the odd fan going as a special holiday, you're not going to be able to get people going away games. I mean, so it's just going to change I think for a lot of people it's already changed anyway, but it's just going to change the match day experience completely. But even the City chairman, he every year he does a post-season interview. So and the journalist from the City department, I think he's just retired, so he did his final chairman interview, and when he mentioned the fans, I noticed the chairman, I just noticed his reaction to the fact that the so-called legacy supporters might actually have an input into the game. It was just interesting to see how he reacted to the mention of the legacy supporters. It seems to me that even at City, on the surface, it may look like they care about the match going supporter, but deep down, I think everything is geared towards the TV supporter. And a lot of those TV supporters don't really have a connection with the club in regard to going to games or living in the community. And I think that's true, not for all of the clubs, but at the top end of the pyramid, I think it's true. So a lot of things that they're doing now is not really geared towards the people going through the turnstile. It's geared towards the people who are watching it on the TV screen, because that's where the big money is. You know, a lot of these.
This is it. I mean, I was going to say, when you think back to, you know, think back to the 40s and the 50s. I know, you know, it's a different era and all that kind of stuff. But if you think back to like the origins of clubs, even abroad, the thing that kept the clubs running and financed the clubs was the supporters.
Yeah.
They don't need to rely on the supporters now, because you've got the sponsors, you've got the big businesses, you've got the backers, you've got all of that stuff, and the TV and all the channels and all the media and everything else. You know, COVID, if nothing else, has proven that these clubs can survive without supporters.
Well, I'm not convinced they can. They don't. I think they do still need those supporters, because empty stadium. I think a stadium with supporters in it, passionate supporters in it, is much better product than an empty stadium.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I totally agree. But what I meant is, in terms of finance, they don't need that money off the punter anymore.
Yeah.
Even though they're still charging the punter an absolute bloody fortune to go and see it.
I think they do need that money. I do think that money is important, but like you were saying, back in the day, it was only that money that they need, that they could rely on. But these days, they have other sources of income, like the advertising, the TV rights, and all that stuff.
Yeah, money from the fan ticket base is still important in the lower league clubs, from the Championship down, I would say. But when you're talking about the top half of the Premiership, I'm not talking about your Norwiches and your Brightons and all that kind of stuff, because they're still in the same bracket of needing that fan money. But I think if you talk about the top half of the Premiership, they don't need, as in, you know, the word need, they don't need that from the fans, but they still will charge them like, you know, 80, 90, £100 a ticket. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know the numbers exactly, but I've been reading that the new Tottenham stadium is going to make them a lot of money. So I think that they're going to be the top earners. So, and it's going to be a big earner for Tottenham, even though, of course, for however long it is, they're going to be repaying that loan they took out to pay for it. But they will be making a lot of money from Matchday income at Tottenham. So I think it's good. They're going
to, and the sale of Harry Kane next season.
Yeah. So is he going to be 29 next season? So I'm not. Is he going to go next season? Is he going to have a great season? Maybe nobody will. Maybe nobody will want him. Maybe, or they might want him, but I don't think they're going to want to pay 150 or whatever it is for a 29-year-old. So to be honest,
he's missed the bus then, dear.
Well, I mean, for all we know, Tottenham could go on and have a great season and pick up a lot of silverware, and then I think that he would be happy. Although personally, I don't think that's going to happen. So. But I think it's going to be more difficult for him to move to a big club next year if Daniel Levy is going to insist on a big fee. I mean, I guess Daniel Levy was quite within his rights if Harry Kane had taken the money and signed a 6-year contract. I mean, personally, I'm happy that he didn't go to City, because, like I was saying to you a few weeks ago, I personally don't see what all the fuss is about. I know you said look in the book, and he has scored a lot of goals, but I just don't think he's as good as people have made out. I think there's just a lot of media hype. He's good. I'm not saying he isn't good. I just think he's not as good as people have said he is.
Well, there's been a few of those down the years, isn't there? To be fair.
I mean, you always got to be wary about how good a player is, that if the media have been saying he's good, and if it's the British media, they've just hyped him to death. And like you said, to me, I agree with you. It looks to me like he's been carrying an injury. I don't think he's fully fit.
No, I don't. I still don't think he's fully fit.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed on. Did you see that on the BBC? A French player. He died. He died yesterday, I think it was. Yeah. He'd been in a coma for 39 years. Yeah, Jean-Pierre Adams.
Yeah. Was he at PSG?
Yeah, I think there was a Nice connection as well. Yeah, I think he'd been at PSG and maybe had also played for Nice. And
yeah, I remember him having him in a Panini album. Believe it or not.
Yeah,
a sticker album.
I remember a lot of those
being difficult.
Yeah, I remember a lot of those French players, Tressor and who were Platini, Tigana, yeah, all those guys. But I don't, to be honest, I don't remember that Jean-Pierre Adams. But anyway, he picked up some injury and had been taken to hospital in Lyon. And the staff at the Lyon hospital were on strike. So I don't know whether the people who were working there had been called in or they just refused to go on strike. I don't know what it was, but anyway, the anaesthetist, he had a lot of patients to deal with, and so he had a trainee helping him, and they messed up with the anesthetic and
give him a near fatal dose, wasn't it, or something?
Yeah, something like that. I think he had a heart attack and so on, and then he'd been in a coma for 39 years, and his wife had refused to turn off the machine or whatever, and he'd eventually left hospital, and she'd looked after him ever since. She used to change his clothes, and I was reading that if she used to go away for a few days, his mood seemed to change, even though he was in a coma. So he knew that she'd gone away for a few days and so on. Yeah, unbelievable. Anyway, rest in peace, Jean-Pierre Adams. Yeah.
73, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So she'd looked.
I mean, what we're talking about being looked after. Nobody talks about Michael Schumacher anymore, do they?
No, they don't. It's almost like it's a secret. Yeah. But so I don't know. Do you know what his condition is? I don't know what his condition is.
I don't. I mean, you almost used to get like an annual update, and it hasn't happened now. For his son's been, driving in Formula One.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's a forgotten figure now. But I'm assuming he's still alive and being cared for with like loads of top medical treatment and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine he's ever going to come out of that sort of vegetative state. I don't know. I'm not sure.
No. Okay. Anyway, so I've got to go to work soon. So any thoughts for the upcoming set of fixtures, internationals or domestic?
I think England could actually slip up against Poland, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because obviously they've got your man up front, Lewandowski.
Yeah.
Their midfield line is not bad. And we all know about Polish goalkeepers. They always
Yeah.
have a habit of not letting us. I was going to call it. I was going to call a 1-1 draw actually in Poland, but I think England could actually potentially get beat.
But that's the thing, you know, back in the 70s when they did get beat by Poland, it mattered, you know, because only one team qualified from the groups, but
yeah,
then it became two. But I'm not even sure. Is it even?
There's only going to be 2 teams. No, there's two teams from our group, and it's only going to be England and Poland. I can't see. Although I think didn't Albania get a result against Hungary, and I think that's kind of I know they were beating Hungary. I think,
but even then,
it's kind of just like.
Well, even after that, isn't there the possibility of the playoff route for the third place team?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why, you know, some of these games, that's part of the reason why I've lost a bit of interest in these games, because even if England lose, is it really going to make that much of a difference? I'm not sure it is.
Yeah, it always used to matter. I remember the one year, I think it might have been 78. We lost to Italy. And then that you knew that was your campaign over. We lost to Italy early doors in the campaign.
Yeah.
And I remember in the return fixture at Wembley, England did actually win. I think they won 2-0. I think Keegan got one of the goals.
Was it that flick header, that Trevor Brooking cross from the right? Yeah. Kevin Keegan coming in from the left, and he kind of just flicked it on with his head.
Yeah. Yeah, for somebody so short, he used to get up quite high, yeah, if I remember.
Yeah. So very quickly, you were asked. So very quickly, maybe we can do it in more depth at another time. So very quickly, because you were asking me about your all-time 11. So can you reel off at the top 11, or do you need more time?
Probably need more time. Let's start with. Should we just do a goalkeeper this week?
Oh yeah. So no, what about before a goalkeeper? What about a coach? Don't you need a coach, or you're not gonna? Are you gonna be the coach? I don't know.
No, coach. I reckon coach has got to be the last pick. I reckon.
All right then. Okay. So who's your goalkeeper then?
All time.
Yeah.
Or are we going to say all time, or we're going to say ones that we've actually seen play live, or what? What we're going
to do? Your gut feeling from those you've seen in the flesh on TV or just read about.
Okay. So it doesn't have to be in our lifetime then?
No, it doesn't have to be. No, but you can make an argument for somebody in your lifetime or somebody from out of your lifetime. Yeah.
I'm going to say Ray Clemence.
Yeah. Okay. So I think also, with this, there's kind of a time and geographic prejudice, isn't there? Because everything is centric. So
I'll tell you what I should have said was I had a bit of a short list. And in my short list, you had Lev Yashin, Gordon Banks, Ray Clemence. You might be surprised to know that, or you probably won't be surprised to know that Peter Shilton wasn't in that short list. Pat Jennings was in there, and Sepp Maier was in there, right?
Yeah. I think
in the modern era, I was going to say in the modern era, I was thinking of Neuer and Casillas, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I went for Ray Clemence because not only the amount of games he played for Liverpool, but he also did it for Tottenham as well.
Yeah.
He won silverware with both clubs, and also was just an absolutely lovely guy. I was honoured to meet the guy.
He passed away now. Was it last year or this year? He passed away now.
Yeah. Last year. But he was actually quite a big man, in terms of stature, and just such a lovely guy.
He came from Scunthorpe, didn't he? Like
totally
Kevin Keegan. Kevin Keegan, they both came from Scunthorpe. Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, so
he's my choice.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, because we of course grew up in England, or in my case, England and Ireland. So a lot of the people we know from the UK, Ireland, but of course people grew up in Argentina or Russia or even Africa. So I'm sure there are goalkeepers we don't even know about. But from my experience, I as a saver, I think that's the other thing, especially these days, that there are different kind of goalkeepers. So, for example, I think as a playmaker, Ederson is the best goalkeeper I have ever seen. But as a shot saver, I don't think he's a very good shot saver. But because of his playmaking, he prevents some shots needing to be saved, in my opinion. But I'm not going to say he's the best goalkeeper of all time by any means, because I don't think he is. But I would just like to say, as a playmaker, he is just phenomenal. And he's also the furthest kicking goalkeeper I've ever seen. He can kick it he can hit goal kicks deep into the opposing half. It's just phenomenal goalkeeper. But on the saving side of things, I don't think he's very good. So you were talking about Ray Clemence. So in those days, goalkeeping was a little bit different. Although even in the 70s, Liverpool did used to play it out from the back. So he did used to play the ball with his feet, even back in the 70s. So in that regard, I guess Liverpool were a little bit ahead of their time in English terms anyway. And Ray Clemence
he was the first keeper I can remember playing it out with his feet.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So while he was a good keeper, I thought for England, sometime he made that mistake, didn't he, against Scotland? So was it Dalglish? Was it Dalglish? So
I was hoping you wouldn't.
Yeah. So although he was a good goalkeeper, especially for Liverpool, I remember he was outstanding. For me, the best goalkeeper in terms of shot saving that I can think of is Neville Southall. I think for just a few seasons at Everton when they won the title, and I remember Ruud Gullit saying when Holland were just pommeling the Welsh goal, they couldn't score, and the reason they couldn't score was where I think that was Gullit, Van Basten, Rijkaard, all those guys were playing, and they couldn't beat Neville Southall. Eventually, they got the one. I think they won the game 1-0. But Ruud Gullit said he's just the best goalkeeper in the world, and if you remember, he came down. I think he played. Was it the Steve Brooks testimonial? He played at Whaddon Road, and
played for Cheltenham, didn't he?
Yeah. In the first half, he played for Cheltenham. The second half, he played for Everton, I think, or maybe the other way around. And
he played the whole game. He played the whole game for Cheltenham.
Really, was the whole game, was it? And Jim Barron was the Cheltenham manager, so that was the connection. But do you remember in that first half? It might even have been true for the second half. Everton could not score. They had chance after chance after. But they couldn't get the goal past him. So.
And I remember every time he prevented it, he was just turning around to us lot and just chuckling, and he was laughing as well. He was laughing that he was preventing his own team from scoring. So and then Simon Brain got the winner for Cheltenham, didn't he?
Well, I don't remember it that well. God. But I remember it was
Simon Brain got the winner for Cheltenham.
I remember it was a sunny evening, so it's probably August time, I guess, July, August. But so in terms of shot saving, I'm going to say Neville Southall. But in terms of playmaking, I wouldn't. It would be a different kettle of fish. So anyway, we can just end there, Jase, because I got to go to work. So your goalkeeper.
Just briefly before we do.
Yeah.
I was going to say, just briefly before you go, you said about Ederson's kicking, going from one end to the other.
Yeah.
I remember Alex Stepney used to do that with a really lead ball as well. So, you know.
Yeah, I don't. Of course, I know Alex Stepney, but I don't recall his goal kicking. But I'll try and look it up on YouTube. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, let's finish there, Jason. If you have time, we maybe do another one next week.
We'll do fullbacks next week. Yeah.
All right then. Yeah. Also for me, Tuesdays. I don't know which is better for you, but any day's okay for me. But probably Wednesday mornings are better here for me. So anyway, we can talk about that during the week.
All right, mate.
Okay. Yeah. See you next week then.
Yeah. Have a good week.